Hi viewers, back with another AP video. The reason why I'm doing a revisited is because there's been a lot of people interested in the AP process, and they've asked me some questions which I didn't cover in the first one. I apologise for that. I usually try and be as informative as I can, so this time round I'm going to try and cover things I didn't and hopefully answer some questions for people. So we'll get into it. I'll turn the camera around. So this is the AP that I made in the last video. So I haven't checked to see how long ago that video was, but it must be a couple of months ago. I haven't done a single thing to it since the day I made the video, except just adding more boards as the time goes on. Stopped adding anything to it about 4 weeks ago, and just let it sit. That's what AP is all about, set and forget. If you want a fast process, AP is not the right one for you. So we'll get into it. You saw me do this before, so I'm just going to scoop out cut containerfuls of this measuring jug, pour it into my filter, which goes back into a drum, because I reuse my AP. The more you use it, the better it gets. Okay, so I'll do some of this. I'll get my glove on first and start scooping. Okay, so even though AP is not one of the worst chemicals we play with, I still recommend you putting a glove on. Please use safety gear no matter what you're using. Okay, it might only be, copper chloride, but anything is not good for you. It's just keep your mask, if you need it, keep your gloves, keep them all handy and use them. I know that you hear this on every video, but that's because it's serious stuff. It's just not worth mucking around with. It's not hard to put a glove on. So I'll get into it. I'm not going to show you the whole tub because you've seen it before. Just let it drain off. Do a couple of scoops and then I'll do the rest off camera. Pour it through the filter. This filter is really good because it traps gold, but it lets the liquid through. There's no gold in there yet because I'm only scooping the top, but you get the gist of it. So I'll carry on and come back when there's something more to show you. Alright. Now I don't want to introduce water to my mix for any reason. So the way I've got this set up is I've got my tub here, my container for the AP, and an empty bucket. Now I'm starting to get down to some boards. So what I'm going to do is just grab the boards and put them in the bucket. Anything that's in here, boards, plugs, the whole lot, just drain it off a bit. You see the gold on there, and hopefully that'll come off when I squirt it. Drop it in the bucket, and then once I'm done, I'll add water to the bucket to rinse them and squirting off the solution. That way I don't get any water in this mix at all. There's no point in putting water in it and then watering it down. I need it the way it's supposed to be. I've got my spray bottle here, but I'm going to swap containers over once I've got all the boards and plugs out. Because I sat down, I didn't want to have to get up again later, so I've got everything I need at hand. So get a couple of boards out, then I'll scoop some more liquid. I'm starting to see some gold getting caught in the filter, and I'm only still on the top, so it's not too bad. It appears that one thing I forgot to mention the first time round, when you're making it with the hydrochloric acid and please, you only need a splash of peroxide. I know I've said that before, but there's people out there that are still using 50-50. Guys, you're wasting your money, you're wasting acid. There is no need for 50-50 or even anything close. You just need a little splash of peroxide, and all that does is it starts the process. It starts the copper from being dissolved, and that's what you want. You want the copper to dissolve, and then it's the copper that does the work. Anyway, so what I didn't mention the first time round, I thought it would be obvious, but you have to have some form of copper in your mix. Now, some people I know have tried doing AP with plugs. Yes, it works on plugs, but there was no copper involved, and they wondered why they weren't getting a nice dark mix. So that's where I should have said, make sure you're introducing some copper. Now, you can either put straight copper in, which I wouldn't recommend because it's expensive and it would be a waste, or just grab some old boards. Doesn't matter if there's no gold on them. If you're going to only do pins, then grab some old boards, make sure you take everything off it, use a heat gun or whatever source you use to get all the bits and pieces off, and you just want the copper to leach out of the boards. See, all the boards have got copper coating underneath all the green mask, and you want that copper to dissolve and give you the nice dark solution. So if you're only going to do pins, then put some old boards in there. You don't need much, probably, I don't know, a handful, maybe some good sized ones like this, maybe 5 or 6 of these, depending on the size of your batch. Of course, I've got a large batch. If you're only doing a small bucket or something, then just a few little small pieces of board. If you're not getting the required colour, then add a few more, even some skinny pieces like this. If you're doing fingers, that's great, you'll get the copper off the fingers, no need to add anything. But yeah, I should have mentioned that you need copper, and I didn't, so people are wondering why it's not working. So I need to cover that now. You won't get a dark colour unless you have copper, hence why it's called copper chloride, and it's the copper that does the work. So that's why the more you use AP, the better it gets, because the more copper is involved in the solution. And some people say, how do you know how many times you can use the solution? Well, I would myself keep using it until I find it's not working. If you have boards that have been sitting in the solution for a decent amount of time, and by decent I mean at least 3 weeks, and it's not removing the gold, then it's not working anymore. And all you need to do is add a little bit more hydrochloric acid. That's it. You don't need any more peroxide. You don't need to add anything else. Just a little bit of hydrochloric acid will recharge the mix. But you don't need to do that until you notice it stopped working. The solution here now is about the 5th or 6th time I've used it. Still going strong. And it annoys me when people are saying, oh, I'll use the 50-50 mix or 20-30 mix or whatever, because guys, you're just wasting your money. Why would you want to spend more on acid than you need to? You know, it's hard enough to get a profit from this. If you're going to get the stuff for free, well, then that's easy. But if you're going to be buying the stuff, then you need to cut corners cost-wise. You need to do whatever you can to turn a profit. And unnecessarily using chemicals is not going to get you a profit. Now, in this bucket, I have a combination of boards and pins. I think when I made the video, I put boards in. I can't remember. but I may have just put pins in, I don't know. But I've been adding all kinds of things to it over the following weeks after I made the video. So there's quite a few plugs, quite a few boards. I just make sure that everything is removed off the boards first, and it's really that simple. You just got to remember to have patience. It's not going to happen overnight, and you need at least 3 weeks. I would say minimum a month, but I know that it can be done in 3 weeks or so. I just put things on there that are difficult to get the gold off, like the plugs. Sometimes they're really hard to get the pins out, and when you do, there's a tiny bit of gold on the end of them. Doesn't seem worth it. So you put them in AP will eat all the pins and just leave the little bits of gold floating around. Problem solved. Some boards that I put in there have only got tiny little specks of gold on them. Hardly worth putting in AP nitric, because you're going to use a lot of nitric for just little tiny specks of gold. So I put them in AP. Anyway, that's enough rambling for now. I'll come back when there's more to show you. Now that I'm getting down to the bottom, there's all the sludge in the bottom, and there's a lot of gold in there as well, right down in that corner there. And so it's blocking up my filter real quick. You can see here, takes a while to drain. So what I've done is I've got a bucket of water here, and it just takes half a second to put that in there, and it washes straight off. That's it. Sometimes the little bits of gold still there, I can squirt those off, but the filter will now drain. So that's what I've been doing. Getting down to the bottom now, and I'm going to pour the last of that into there. You can see it's all caught up in the jug and everything. There's a lot of gold. Now, for those of you who didn't see the video and don't know what this material is called, it's a brewer's bag. You buy it from a brewery supply place. That's what they use to filter out whatever it is they make beer in that one with. It's the best thing I've ever found. You got to make sure that the holes are nice and small. I have tried other meshes and the holes are a bit bigger. This stuff is unbelievable. It's so small you can't even see the holes, but the liquid just drains right through it, and even the smallest little bit of gold is caught. I love it. Brewer's bag, and I just cut it open so you can see the seam where there was a drawstring or something. So if you want to get one of those and make your life a lot easier. Alright, so I need 2 hands, back to it. So now I'm just washing all the plugs and boards and so on. Just water. I don't need to worry about gloves for this. And so there's a large opening, and then in the back there's a small opening. What I do is I squirt in there with the squirt gun, just to blow anything out that may be stuck in there. I haven't yet come across anything that's stuck on solid. Everything's just free and floating around, and you know, you pick something up that's got gold on it, it's just sitting on there, and as soon as you rinse it off, it just falls off. Same with the boards, everything's coming out nice and clean so far. There's not a whole lot of gold. I don't even know if I'll process it. I might just put all the gold foils aside, because I didn't really have, even though the bucket's full, didn't have anything spectacular in there. It's just boards that had tiny little dots of gold, or these sort of plugs, which are mostly steel with just a tiny bit of gold on the ends. I know it looked a lot in the filters, but it can be deceiving. We'll wait and see what I get at the end. There might be enough there, but I don't know. I'm going from experience. What looks like a lot doesn't mean it is. So this is the easy part. I just grab one thing at a time, run it through, just wipe it with my finger. My thumb, just make sure that you rub it off if there's anything stuck to it. So far nothing. And just toss it away. Pretty easy. So I've got to squirt these off, so I need 2 hands, but I'm just showing you what I'm up to. Got a fair ways to go, so I'll get stuck into it. Okay, so I've squirted off all the boards and plugs and whatever was in the AP. Now I'm left with basically water and all the gold at the bottom. There will also be some green solder mask off the boards that came off, but that doesn't matter. That can all be filtered out once the once the AR is filtered. I've got my gauze filter. I'm going to use a jug to start with until the bucket gets low, then I'll just pour it in. So now I'm just going to catch all the gold and discard all the water. I'll do a little bit by hand, but you don't want to see the whole thing, so there shouldn't be much gold floating in there. It should all be at the bottom. I'm just pouring this in there like that. Most of the water will go straight through. When I eventually get some sediment, it'll start to block up a little bit. When this beaker's full, I'll just tip it into a bottle or something and carry on with an empty beaker. The reason I'm not sitting on top of a bottle now is because it sits more firmly and securely on top of a beaker. As it starts to stir up a bit, there'll be some gold like this. There's a bit of gold floating. Oh, that's pretty much full, so I'll tip the beaker out. I'll do the rest of this off camera. Show you when I get the gold. Okay, like I said, it's starting to block up a bit now because of the fine sediment. That's okay, I'll just let it sit and filter. It is dripping through. While I wait, I'll get my next batch of AP ready. So what I have here is a standard fish pump, just an aquarium pump, nothing special. A long bit of hose on it. Just trying to find the end of it. I'm going to put that inside the bucket. About that's good. You want the end of it in the middle if you can, just to make sure it's an even flow. That worked out good. I'm throwing it in there like that. And I'll put this on the floor. Like that. I'm not going to leave it here. I'm going to move it once I get it set up. And so what I have to process again is a variation, plugs and boards. See, the boards have got gold on them, but only small amounts, not enough to sort of go after with nitric or anything. So a little bit of gold. I've taken everything off with the heat gun. See, there's bits of gold here. Sure, I could cut those out and put those in with other batches, but there's other gold amongst it, little bits of gold. So what I do is first I put the boards in on top of the pump. On top of the pump, I don't want the pump to, the hose to move, so I put it in on top of the hose. Even just some of them to get the hose to stay still, and I can put some more in later. That's fine. Just cover the hose. So I'm just trying to hold this bucket thing, and I'm trying to hold this one-handed. See if I can sit that on there. I'm looking at it's going to tip. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I've got that sitting on the corner. So I've got quite a few of these. These are from TVs, the flat screen ones. I've trimmed the fingers off that were on the edge. They're in my other video. And you know, other boards like this that have got bits of gold all through them, little dots of gold. There's a RAM board there that had little bits of gold on it. Not more flat screen, there are a lot of flat screen boards here. There's a RAM board that got through without me taking the chips off. So I'll put that aside. I'm glad I saw that. This one, other one is chipped. Yeah, ICs are off it. You don't have to check these things. Alright, so that will pretty much hold the hose still. You want the air to not come up in one place, you want it to come out all over the place. This one's got quite a nice bit of gold on there, but it's also got little bits all over the board. So these are the types of things I put in AP. So by having it in the middle and boards on like that, you're sort of guaranteeing that the air is going to come up in all different directions. What the oxygen does, it first helps to oxygenate the solution to help the reaction, but it mostly just keeps the flow happening so that everything circulates. If it's stagnant, then not much will happen, but by having a movement in the solution, it helps to release things off the boards and so on. It helps to get fresh acid circulating instead of all the acid sitting in one spot. I might just tip this whole box in as it is, this whole crate, but I just want to check, make sure that any RAM boards that go through have their chips taken off. I'll just watch as I tip it. If I did miss any RAM chips, it's not going to be a problem because they'll dissolve, but I just would rather not have them in there. See how there's lots of pockets of air? Where spider there, good chap. So there's lots of pockets where air can circulate. That's good. Doesn't matter, you don't want it all laying flat on top of each other. You want to know that the air can get around everything. So I like that the way it is. I'll be adding more to it as time goes on. I've got more boards inside that I'm going to do. So that's all got lots of space around it. That's good. And now I'm going to pour back the AP that I put into the drum. I can't do that while I'm holding the camera, but you know, just going to open it up, tip it in, nothing special. And if it doesn't cover the boards, I've got extra in a drum that I've had aside, because I once had 40 litres of the stuff. So I'll pour that in now and see if it's covered it. Okay, that 20 litres hasn't quite covered it, so I'll grab the other drum and I'll put more in there until I can't see the boards. I want them all completely covered to allow for a little bit of evaporation and so on. Okay, so I've moved it to its final resting place underneath my bench, because I had to try and carry it while I still could, and when I put more in it got too heavy, because there's about 30 kilos of liquid there. So 30 litres is usually about 30 kilos. Now I'll put the lid on, and as I've said many a time before, AP is set and forget. So that will still be there in about 2 months' time. It doesn't need to sit that long, but that's how long I'll leave it for, just until I get around to doing it again. Alrighty, that's the end for that's how you set up the drum, the container. I'll just go back to filtering this now. I'll show you when you get the gold. Well, I've drained off all the water, and to catch all the gold, I'm always left with this grey muck in there. I never know what it is, whether it's just decomposing boards or I doubt very much it's silver. So you can see the gold in amongst it all. It's always, every time I do AP, it's always the same. I always get this horrible silver muck, grey stuff. But it doesn't matter because it'll be filtered out. So if it's silver, it might cause a problem. I doubt it. Anyway, so now I'm just going to put these filters into this beaker along with all the gold residue in the bottom, and put AR in there. That will dissolve the gold, and then hopefully this stuff will all be filtered out. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I've put some hydrochloric acid in there, just enough to cover the filters. Now I'm going to add the nitric. I'm only going to add exactly what I need. I don't want to over nitric or I'll never be able to drop the gold. So just a few drops at this point in time, and see how that goes, because there's not really a lot of gold in there. I'll put some heat on. This needs to be low, medium, no more than that. Put a lid on it and give it a few minutes. I'll give it a stir. I'll do that now, just give it a bit of a shake. You can see the gold floating in there. And then I'll keep an eye on it, and then about half an hour or so, if I still see any gold flakes, I'll put a little bit more nitric in there, and I'll stop when I see it's all gone. Then filter it. Alright, so it's been boiling now for half an hour. I can see plenty of gold still floating in there. I've ended up so far putting half of one of these pipettes, which is about how much is in there now. So I'm going to put another half in, and that should be plenty. Looked like it was going to overflow, but it didn't. It got to the top and stopped. So that's an error on my half. I should have put it in slowly. I was lucky I escaped without an overflow. But I don't mind showing you my errors. Everyone makes them. If you guys doing this, you should put it in slowly when it's hot. I was lucky. Okay, so I've taken it off the heat. I can't see any more gold. I've given it a stir, and it looks to me like it's all dissolved. As I said, there wasn't much in there. Even though you saw me do a whole pile of boards and pins, it doesn't amount to a lot, because the plugs and pins I put in there were only, like I said, tiny little coatings on the tips of the pins, and the boards only had little specks of gold all over it. That's why I didn't do it in nitric. Now what I'm going to start doing in the future is the filters, that when I filtered it all, I'm going to put them in a bucket and just keep like saving them, maybe 3 or 4 lots of AP, and then process them all at once. But for the purpose of the video, this will be good enough to show you guys. It's just, normally I wouldn't do a small amount like this, but it'll do for now. Alright, so I'm going to let it cool down and then filter it off. And if I see any specks of gold in the filter, which I doubt, then I'll put the filter aside and put it in my next lot of AR. Okay, so I poured the solution in. The filter caught some of the garbage that was in there. There was still some garbage in here, and I've just topped it up with some water. You can see the garbage in the bottom, and the idea is to get all the gold bearing solution out of that rubbish. So now I'm just going to let that sit, and then when it's settled and all the garbage is on the bottom, I'll pour that water into here as well, because I don't want to leave any gold solution behind. Okay, I've got the gold mixture in a clean beaker, which is important if you want purity for your gold. I'm going to pour some copperas in, basically double the quantity of what liquid was there, and see what happens. All the white stuff floating around, I don't know what that is. It's I don't know, it wasn't there last night. It must have been pollen or something that's fallen in overnight. I should have had a lid on top of it. So I'll let that sit now. Slowly getting darker. There's probably a sign of not much gold, because yeah, see it going dark now. If it takes a while to go dark, that usually means there's not much gold. If it goes dark really quick, like super quick, that means there's a fair bit in there. There's a nice colour change before your eyes. It'll take a while, so just let it sit now. See, within minutes, it's gone to a nice brown colour. I only looked away for a few minutes and that was it. So we'll leave it there overnight and see what happens. Okay, the gold has dropped quite nicely. There's not a lot in there, but it's down the bottom. You probably can't see. I'm going to decant this liquid, have a look at the gold, see if it, I'm going to give the full wash procedure and then see if it needs to be refined. If it does, I'll refine it. Well, I'm up to the washing procedure, and it's very important, which is why I show it in every video. So if you don't want to see the washing procedure, just skip past it. This is the gold. Let's put some boiling water in there, and it's starting to settle pretty well. Once it's all clear, I'll decant that water, put some more in. I'll do that 3 times. I'll boil it in hydrochloric acid, and then I'll put another 3 lots of water. That's the first load. Okay, so the water has cleared up quite nicely. I've got a container that I pour all my gold wash into, because even though you think you got all the gold going across, you could miss some. So see that it's cleared up nicely. So I'm pouring my wash water in there. Quite often there's tiny little fragments of gold that are in solution that you don't see, and over time it settles out. Even if it's a tiny bit, gold's gold. So there's a little bit of sulfamic acid in the bottom of the beaker mixed in with the gold, if you're wondering why there's some white stuff in there. I prefer to have a little bit of extra sulfamic acid than to still have nitric free. So now I'll fill some more hot water in there. I won't need to show you every procedure, I'm just telling you that as I said before, 3 washes, 1 boil of hydrochloric and 3 more washes of water. Alright, so I've done the last of the water washes. I've done my hydrochloric acid boil. There's my gold, nice and brown. There's not a lot in there. I know it looks like a lot, but it's really not. Now I'm going to drain all that water off and try and dry that powder out. There's not enough there to melt, so I'm just going to weigh the powder. Well, that little bit there is all I ended up with. As I said, it doesn't, it looks like a lot, but it's really not. So I've got a container the same as that. I'm going to put it on the scales and tear it. 0. Okay, same container, take that off, put this on, 0.34 of a gram, that's all I got. So it just goes to show you guys that you need a lot of material, because it's only microplated. It's really not as much as it looks. So anyway, that's the end of that one. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. If anyone would like to make contributions to my channel, donations are greatly appreciated. I'll leave the details in the description. Thank you.